Coming up this week, a new study reveals the extreme side effects of using ChatGPT. Are vibe-coded apps an asset or a liability? OpenAI's former head of research tells us what he thinks. Figma, Stripe and ElevenLabs launch new AI capabilities, and why the godfather of AI thinks we're headed for mass joblessness, and which job he'd recommend training for in 2025. As always, if you enjoy the briefing, hit the subscribe and the like button. But before all that, Microsoft has started to roll out a new Copilot feature called Vision. This is pitched as an AI companion that works with you, sees what you see, and helps you to get things done. When you choose to enable this, Copilot Vision can see what you see and talk to you about it in real time. In this example, you can see how it works for things like suggesting images for documents or for troubleshooting.
Hey Copilot, check out the short story I've been working on. Which of these images works best for a book cover for this story?
Got it. An image that echoes a city in ruins could work as a story cover. The top right image has a rich, dramatic vibe that could work well for your story.
So what we're starting to see emerge here is these three distinct layers of AI interactions. At the bottom is your typical interaction model where a user visits a website like ChatGPT or interacts directly with the app. But now we're starting to see different levels of abstraction away from that. So for example, over the past week, we've seen the launch of AI browsers, which allow you to interact with different websites as opposed to just one. And Microsoft's new release sees this go a step further by working on the operating system level. So this could ultimately be where most of our interaction takes place, at least for working on desktops. It'll be interesting to see what Apple is actually cooking up and whether Apple Intelligence can compete here with Microsoft's own Copilot Vision. But outsourcing our thinking to LLMs in this way is, according to a new study by MIT, leading to an accumulation of cognitive debt. In this study, they showed that 83.3% of ChatGPT users couldn't quote from essays they wrote just minutes earlier. Brain scans also revealed that neural connections collapsed from 79 to 42. I was actually speaking to a friend the other day, and he said he felt like he was becoming less able to think clearly or problem solve. And so this seems to correlate with that idea. So that's something to bear in mind the next time you choose to outsource something like ChatGPT at work. This isn't stopping companies from announcing new AI features though. And this week, Google also revealed new ways to use Google Search. It announced a new version of Search called Search Live, which allows you to have direct conversations with your search results. So here's an example of a user having a conversation about different types of clothing.
How do I get my linen dress to not wrinkle when packing?
To prevent wrinkles when packing a linen dress, rolling it instead of folding can minimize creases. Using packing cubes can also help keep clothes from shifting and wrinkling. Consider placing tissue paper between folds to reduce friction. Upon arrival, hang the dress promptly.
Search is also getting audio overviews, so this is the podcast style feature that's in Notebook LM. But instead of relying on uploaded sources, these audio overviews in Search use your queries to generate the audio output. Now, I'm not completely convinced that I'd ever want or need to use this, but I'd happily give it a try to find out. Now, all of this is part of Google's wider efforts to transform search, and the collapse in Google Search is having a profound impact on other companies, leading to some job cuts. Stay tuned for that, and I'll talk you through how traffic has collapsed across websites, including Netflix, TripAdvisor, and others. Elsewhere this week, Lovable made its premium product free over the weekend to allow indie products to build on the platform. So after the weekend, it handpicked a bunch of vibe-coded apps that were declared as the winners. And these winners included things like RateSmart, a platform designed to manage online reviews for businesses, an infinite canvas to play with generative AI assets, and a new language learning app powered by Google Gemini that helps you to learn a language by talking through different scenarios and getting feedback in real time. It was also reported this week that a vibe-coded app was acquired by Wix for $80 million in cash, just 6 months after it was created by a solo founder. But are these vibe-coded apps an asset or liability? OpenAI's former head of research isn't convinced that these vibe-coded apps are a suitable replacement for products built by software engineers. Speaking to Sequoia Capital, he said that if you are given a code base that you don't understand, this is a classic software engineering question. So the question is this an asset or a liability? And right now he says, I think the liability has gone down, but it's still a net liability. If no one knows how an app works, then that's terrible. Usually the answer is it's actually cheaper to rewrite it from scratch. When the project itself becomes too complicated for the AI to understand, you can have a human do a problem decomposition and break it down into problems that are small enough for the AI to handle. During his talk at Sequoia Capital, he also made some other predictions around AI and said that he believes that proprietary data will lose its strategic value and become less valuable as AI gains the ability to replicate much of the labor that created it. Reasoning will become the main driver of progress, and AI labs will focus on reasoning as the primary area for breakthroughs and competition, and that industries like law and medicine will be transformed as AI makes expert services wildly accessible, As a result, startups will need to differentiate through network effects, brand, or enterprise integration rather than proprietary models. He also says that robotics will rapidly transition from research to commercial products, enabled by LLMs and advanced vision systems. Success in an AI-driven world, he argues, will depend on the ability to learn new things and use tools resourcefully. And one way that software is becoming more powerful thanks to AI is with the release of new MCP servers. Figma has launched a new MCP server for dev mode that connects Figma directly to AI coding assistants like Copilot, Cursor, and Claude Code, which means that instead of just giving an AI a screenshot or a vague API response, the MCP server can give it rich, structured data about your Figma designs, bridging the gap between code and design. Other new MCP servers released recently include Stripe's testing MCP server for payment testing and simulating real-world scenarios, and a new MCP server from ElevenLabs, which allows you to speak to voice agents and ask them to perform actions on your behalf, like sending emails. So in this example, you can see how an MCP server is used to send an email from Gmail on your behalf.
Great. To whom should I address the email, and what should the subject and body be?
So the email should be I'm going to send you the email by text. But the body should be, wow, this is an amazing demo. And the subject should be, hi there.
Okay, I have the recipient's email address, the subject, and the body of the email. Would you like me to send it now?
Yeah, can you send it right now, please?
The email has been sent. Is there anything else I can help you with?
No, that's all good. Thanks a lot.
Happy I could help.
So now if I go over to my Gmail, let's have a look. Wow, this is an amazing demo.
If you're interested in learning more about MCP servers, then over on the Substack, you can check out the Knowledge series, which includes a simple guide on MCP servers, which explains the core terminology involved and how you can use MCP during the product development process. So check that out on Substack if you're interested in that. Now let's take a look at some tools you can use this week. And so first up is a really simple tool called Scrappy. And part of the reason I like this is because I like the name Scrappy. But this is a really simple way to build apps that are known as scraps, which I think is a fun name. And in the template gallery, you can see different use cases, including things like chore trackers, maths practice, and meeting cost calculators, which allows you to put in the average salary and number of people in the meeting to be aware of the cost of that meeting. So this was something that went viral over on Hacker News this week. And these scraps are designed to be the opposite of mass market apps. Another tool worth checking out this week is something called Spotted in Prod. So if you're currently working on designs for your own products, then Spotted in Prod is basically a collection of all of the different types of high-quality designs for mobile that you can filter based on things like design languages, visuals, flows, gestures, and more. So this is a really rich resource and collection of different designs that you can use as inspiration for your own product. And the final product this week is a product called Den. So Den describes itself as a better Slack plus Notion that is built for AI agents. Now, this was part of the latest Y Combinator batch and managed to reach #1 on Product Hunt. And on first glance, it does actually look a lot like Notion, but it is almost like a combination of Notion and Slack, but with the addition of AI agents. So the way this works is you can create these agents directly inside your space, and these agents can perform specific actions. So for example, they can look up failed payments and then ping the relevant channel with the output of that. So if you're looking for something that's a bit more lightweight compared to Slack, which is now owned by Salesforce, and you want to leverage AI agents at work, Den could be worth checking out. Okay, so now let's move on to some product data and trends for the week. And this study caught my eye, which shows that the performance of AI agents on longer tasks leads to an exponential decay in success rates. So for example, if an AI agent has a 50% chance of finishing a 1-hour task, it would have a 25% chance of finishing a 2-hour task, since it must succeed in both hours. So in this graph, you can see two things: the length of time of the task, so for example, ranging from 1 second up to 2 days, and the success probability. And you can see that the longer the time horizon, the less likely this agent is to succeed in its task. And if you compare this to humans, their success rate actually stays around the 20% mark after 16 hours. And so this could mean that humans are better at performing longer tasks than AI agents. And so this is something to bear in mind if outsourcing work to AI agents. Also this week, a new report showed steep declines for organic traffic across major products, including Netflix, TripAdvisor, and Starbucks. So this report over on Barron says that search referrals tumbled 34% for TripAdvisor in May. Starbucks saw a 41% decline, and Netflix search-driven results were down 23%. Business Insider have had to cut their staff by 21%, citing traffic drops that were outside of their control. This isn't really a surprise to people who've been following the channel, but it does look as though GEO, or Generative Engine Optimization, may now be the official replacement for SEO. And this week, Adobe actually used this term in their press release for their latest product called LLM Optimizer. So this is a product designed to help companies boost their GEO performance in AI tools, and another startup in the latest Y Combinator batch is designed to do the same thing. So it would seem that GEO tools are just getting started as more people turn to tools like ChatGPT for conversations rather than search results. And speaking of ChatGPT, this week, this new analysis shows us the demographics of generative AI app users. And you can see that broadly speaking, the majority of these users across the board are male. But if you look closely, this trend is actually reversed when looking at companion products. So for example, when we take a look at Character AI, which is a companion-based product that allows you to interact directly with personas, the gender split here is that 70% of these users are women and nearly 90% of these are aged under 35. So it looks as though female users are more inclined to interact with chatbots that have anthropomorphic qualities, which is something to bear in mind if you're designing AI features for your product. And finally this week, in a letter to workers, Amazon CEO says that the company will reduce its workforce because of AI. In the letter, he said that it's hard to know exactly where this nets out over time, but in the next few years, we expect that this will reduce our total corporate workforce. This was also echoed by the so-called godfather of AI this week, Geoffrey Hinton, who warned that AI is likely to lead to mass joblessness. In this interview on the Diary of a CEO, he says that AI will likely replace many jobs, especially mundane intellectual labor, which he describes as administrative work, but that jobs requiring complex physical manipulation will be safer for longer. And the job choice that he recommends to avoid AI replacement is plumbing. And on that note, I'll leave it there. Thanks very much for listening and watching. I'll be back next week with another briefing.